Hello. Sorry. God, I always try to be on time. I remember about that but it's interesting because sorry, I'm winded. I was just trying to pull up a contract because that's how I stumbled on all this stuff. Was I know that there's other counties, cities, districts, areas that have asked me, how did you get your county's contracts? Do I have to FOIA them, which is the Freedom of Information Act? And I was like, no, it should be ours in Chesterfield County at least. And yes, I'm rocking my defund Fed Ed shirt because this stuff is nuts. So I was researching other counties, and we'll get to the stuff I found on Dandel, because, and this is what you guys should be doing. And I had planned to do an open government page or show today, because there's counties that I've heard that are doing FOIA. They're authorizing FOIA requests on private citizens. And school board members have been sending me, because when you submit a FOIA, the school board members get notified of what has been requested from their records, because it should include all text messages that they've had with certain people that are government or county employees, period. Senators, House representatives, they're all included. You cannot, and I'm going to repeat this, and again, probably tomorrow, I will try. That's what this show was supposed to be about. I'm going to get to this. But so I was researching information on open government and finding out where all the other counties where your contracts were located, so that everybody could see what web apps are in your child's computer. Because on Thursday, I had my first productive meeting with 2 members of our school board and our director of constituent services about the transparency, because Fairfax, believe it or not, is one of the only counties that notifies parents of what web apps under COPA, which is what I've been talking about for a long time, and the opportunity to opt out, because under COPA, if you don't opt out, it's an automatic opt-in. So think about that as we approach the next legislative season, and start thinking about how we can write legislation to protect these children. And don't forget, the FTC issued about a month ago a guideline. They're cracking down on big ed tech. Right, let me write that down because I'll forget, because that's been shows that I've been meaning to do. And guys, I don't always need to be up here by myself. So if anybody wants to join in and has expertise on why psychologists who are partial psychologists authorized by the Department of Education, not the Department of Psychology, should not be analyzing our children. The problem with social workers being in schools, how counselors, due to this past legislation, pretty much means almost like anybody can be a school counselor. Any of these topics I've talked about, I need to jump back in, and I would love to not just be giving my intellectual insight onto my belief and how I read it. I would love to have other people. And if you want to talk about something, let me know, and I will send you what I have and you can look over it. So I was looking up other counties' contracts, trying to help people find out where they are, because I actually made a lot of headway. If we can't stop the data collection, what we need to do is increase transparency. And this meeting. Now, this was our far left, Catherine Haynes, Ann Coker. So I made sure I requested these 2, because as much as Ms. Haynes and I have battled, and I am against everything she stands for when it comes to our children, I wanted to make sure that this was a bipartisan conversation, because I believe that if people have the right mind frame, you can sit at a table. I hate that terminology because of Cardona, Becky Pringle, and you don't get up until all children are taken care of. And so what we agreed on, this goes with the books too, is if you're not going to get rid of the books, then you make it fully transparent what books are in what schools, because don't forget, they're all different. Every librarian here at 65 some schools, they're not uniform. So we were able to come to a meeting of the minds that transparency is the one thing that we could agree upon. If you don't want to censor the porn, which I'm not going to mix words, okay? I'm not talking about the stuff that could help an LGBTQ child, because they're still not listening to me about the World Professional Association of Transgender Health and what they say about how none of this belongs in schools. So it took time, but transparency is the one thing. But what I stumbled on, and I will jump straight to why you're here, is this piece right here. Okay, so that's not the view that I want. Sorry, I'm still learning this thing. There we go. All right, so stumbling around while researching for other counties' information, which again, sorry, I will share what I have found. I found stuff Newport News. I'll show you what I found on Danville. But it's EVA. It's a portal. If your county, this is where you should, if they have a procurement department, if your county is big enough, your district, your locality, I just say county because I live in one. If they're large enough to have an actual procurement department, some places like Virginia Beach, they're probably the easiest to find. You can find a full spreadsheet and you can find now the actual contracts, but you can find out what contracts. Now, Chesterfield is locked down at the moment. You can remember what meeting I just had on Thursday. Okay. But so insert, I found this and I was like, threat, because I knew threat assessment. We've been talking about those surveys, the DESA surveys, and how they are mental health behavioral assessment. And I started hearing the word threat assessment on early warning assessments. And I was like, hadn't heard about that. So when this came up under the Virginia Department of Criminal Justice Services, not the Virginia Department of Education. Okay, this is, so when we talk about all of these interagencies being collected and intertwined, and why that's a problem, and that's the statewide longitudinal database system we've talked about. Library of Virginia keeps that data 75 years after graduation. You don't think that to find information about your child, you need to go to the Virginia Department of Criminal Justice Services. Well, you do. Because so it says, let me see if I can zoom in. Check in. Okay, so that be first. Nope. Okay, so threat assessment. So over the past decade, it's been leading nation efforts to implement threat assessment procedures of higher education and pre-K. Okay, so we talked about the Head Start program and how they're using these systems. Do not put your kid in a federally funded preschool. Please. Nothing is free. They're not doing it to be great people. Okay, they're not. Even the lunch program, they're blackmailing people with the transgender stuff for. It's to get data on parents. Okay, Joe Biden, I promise you, none of them are giving you anything for free for the children. But here in Virginia has always been under the low in the last 12 years, has always been one that I never gotten any press as far as this crazy stuff. So people have assumed that Virginia's may have been slightly sane. No, we were just too comfortable and asleep at the wheel. In 2008, the Virginia Assembly passed legislation. Here it is. 23.1-805, Violence Prevention Committee Threat Assessment Team in 2008. This was 10 years after I graduated from high school. 10 years. I graduated in 98. That's when this legislation. We have states that are just now doing this legislation because of the gun violence. So Virginia on the radar before everybody for almost everything. So, and again, I will here. Let me just copy, and if you're, we'll paste the link right there. Oh, hold on, I'm not showing it briefly. Okay, sorry. Let me jump over here. All right, I don't know why it's not letting me. So, okay, anyway, I'll share this with you guys later, remind me. But for some reason, sorry, Bobby, will you let everybody know on Facebook I'm over here on YouTube because for some reason it looks like it's not streaming. Is it? Am I reconnected? Anyway, sorry. If Facebook, if for some reason, anyway, Bobby, let them know, please. But so, you can look it up. The Virginia Department of Criminal Justice Service threat assessment, and you'll get this page that will lead you to all this amazing. And when I say amazing, it's not amazing. That's just my term. Thanks, Bobby. And then it said in 2013, they enacted legislation requiring all public school, so that's 2013, requiring all public school divisions to establish and operate threat assessment teams. 2013. That's 9 years ago. Almost a decade. They required public school divisions. This was before we thought about SEO. This was before we thought about data mining. Okay, we'll get into these threats. So in 2013, okay, keep in mind, 2013 is also the year that Obama implemented, what was it called? Future Ready? No, not Future Gen. I'll figure it out in a second and I'll tell you. So these years, they coordinate. So let's look at the legislation that it made. So this is 22.179.4. Threat assessment teams and oversight committees. This is the year 2013 that they made it required in Virginia. Prior to that, in 2008, they passed for public institutions of higher education to establish. Now, I did go to Virginia Tech. I was not there when the shooting happened, but so now we're going to see we're seeing all of this years later. So if they've had these threat assessment teams going for this long, how are they doing it? Was then the question that I had to figure out, and that's what makes me suspicious about the fact I can't pull up Chesterfield's contracts because Gaggle. If you have Gaggle, Bark, what are the other? We'll get to the other ones, but but Chesterfield has contract with Gaggle. And you can Google Gaggle, because they go together. Okay. These are the people that they hire. Now, this is where private contractors come in, is that they hire people for $10 an hour. And after maybe a week or two, they have access to everything your children are doing. Everything. Class Dojo is a big one. I know my child had, when she was in elementary school, had Class Dojo. Teachers have real-time. I was getting real-time notification about if my first grader how she was behaving before I knew to care. That's what these assessments are. So, so 2013 is when the legislation was made to make this mandatory in Virginia, the whole state, K through 12. So wherever you live, it's been required for a long time. So, and then I was like, Virginia cares. And I started reading it and I was like, the campaign, okay. And then let's look at this real quick. write all these acronyms down. Okay, I have to stop it right there. It just says like the transgender and SEL. It doesn't say how, but they care so much that they made very succinct that you don't have to follow this. They cared so much about everything else when making legislation and model policies. But this one, tracking data on your children and threat assessments, there's no common standard. I'm sorry, but model policies provided, if you don't know that research it is different than evidence-based and accepted. Accepted by whom? Sorry, this is boring. I'm sorry. How do you put caring when, again, here we have positive school climate? Okay. Anytime that you see that, no, that's not what they mean. Awareness of resources. Are you serious? But then recognition of aberrant and threatening behaviors. You don't have a uniform anything, but you want to recognize aberrant behavior. And I will tell you that the one thing that I will agree upon is that this is the one thing that everybody on both sides of the fence can get behind right now is that this is wrong. Nobody wants this. Nobody. So if we can agree on one thing to save these kids, can it please be this? Because when I'm talking about over alarming, request the data, find out if your county uses gaggle or bark, and I'll give you all the names using COPA. Find out what your kid has been flagged on, because that's going to follow them 75 years. But again, I'll share all of that. But that was the video. Let me see if I can share this now. I don't know. Okay. Anyway, I'll share it with you guys later. But you, so we're going to go back to, all right. So this is here. So this is the one I posted the picture of. Okay. This was revised. So I'm going to have to go back and show you and figure out what the original was. But this was revised in July 2020. It's like this magical year because of COVID. No, because of James Lane in Northam. That's who. So let's zoom in. All right. So you're going to see the scope of the assessment team, structure, duties, resources, all this stuff. Sorry, I'm trying to find what it is exactly. I got so deep into researching Gaggle and then trying to figure out why I couldn't find the contracts anymore that I did not highlight what I wanted to show you guys. Okay, notifications regarding criminal acts. So the code outlines certain circumstances in which school staff, including threat assessment team members, threat assessment team members are law enforcement. So ask your superintendent, who is on our threat assessment team? They're going to be like, what threat assessment team? Is my guess. Because I've never seen anything in any, and I'm the person that digs through everything that goes through this county. Never seen anything about the threat assessment team. So it's maybe it's in a different language. Okay, sorry, I'm gonna go back down to where I was. But the code outlines circumstances in which school staff, including threat assessment teams, are required to notify senior administrator of all incidences regarding criminal acts. Reports of certain acts to school authorities require school staff to report to the superintendent and principal or designee when any of the following acts have occurred on a school bus, school property, or a school-sponsored event. The assault or battery without bodily injury of a person. Now notice, this does not mean that they notified the police. Okay, it says that require a senior administrator staff. And this was that legislation that I believe it was Tim Anderson or LaRock tried to get through for like an alarm system. Because Midlothian Middle, a sixth grader, pulled a knife on another sixth grader. The police were not called. It took the mother insisting on filing police charges when her child told them. Not the police. Okay. So when it results in bodily injury, sexual assault, any threats against school personnel, that's not true. Because I know we have the Loudon case right now going on where a teacher was sexually assaulted. And they fired her. So this is so far beyond what I can get in. I just wanted to show y'all so you had it to look into, and then I'm going to again dive deeper. But what I was able to mainly find out was then I thought about how are they assessing these kids? Like how are these systems being done? And that's when I found out. I wanted to explain to you guys how this works. Hold on 1 second. Okay, maybe if you could questions. I think this is where I found everything I needed. Ah, yes. Okay. So this is if we go back, this is under the frequently asked questions about K-12 behavioral. And so do threat assessment teams only address threats of mass violence? No, the teams are established for early identification, assessment, management for a broad range of violent behaviors, including individual violence to others, self-bullying. How many people live in a county where your bullying has been out of control and nobody cares for decades? I do. One of the main reasons that when I understood it's not going anywhere is when I pull my kids out. They don't care. Dating and domestic violence, stalking, predatory sexual misconduct, human trafficking, violent extremism, etc. Are school threat assessment teams required to address threats by non-students? Oh, yes. Does the school division have to establish a committee for oversight? There should always be oversight. The reason the Virginia Department of Education or any of these state departments of education were formed was oversight. No, the superintendent may choose to do so at their discretion. Do you have a superintendent like Merv Doherty who will not do anything Merv doesn't want to do? I do. How confidential is the threat assessment and management process? The threat assessment team operates in a highly confidential manner. States that no member of a threat assessment team shall redisclose any criminal history record information. I want to know the data. I'm not asking about the criminal history information. And health information obtained pursuant to this section or otherwise use of any record involvement beyond the purpose for which. See, that's where they get beyond the purpose for which disclosure was made to the threat assessment team. Is they think you think they're answering something for you, but they're not. So it's like they will not do data mining beyond the scope of educational purposes. Well, what in the hell does that mean? Because that's what I'm consistently being told. That's like this data mining. What data are you getting back that's showing any sort of positive change for education, behavior, or any of it? Because I can tell you that the evidence I see that's not misinterpreted through somebody else's lens of powers or money is that none of it's working. These kids are not getting educated. The behavior certainly isn't improving. Nothing's working. So these words you have to understand that's the big thing, is understanding what they're talking about. Okay, so who are required members of the threat assessment team? Shall include, okay, required is not shall include persons with expertise. What does that mean? What is that? Do I have expertise because I know more? In counseling, instruction. How is a teacher a specialist? She's an expertise in instruction. Is she an expertise in assessing children's online behavior to then flag them? No. School administrator, principals, are they experts in threat assessment? No. And law enforcement, maybe. I might, probably not even then, trust law enforcement. Maybe, probably not. The code states that persons must have. Oh, and on that note, let me jump real quick to, hold on. Remember, if you saw earlier, that I shared while I was researching, I found those, so I'm trying to pull this up at the same time. The Danville contract that is out right now. God, this stuff makes me nuts. That they're looking for school psychological mental health professionals, and hold on, where is it? Here it is. Okay, so okay. Remember, these are the people threat assessing our children. Are the same people that Danville is hiring for right now. So Danville is requesting proposals for psychological services for the 2022-23 school year. Okay. Here's their information. Shall you want to find out what's going on? And then you scroll down, and I got to this: special conditions. That he or she has not been convicted within the last 7 years of a felony or any offense involving sexual molestation. 7 years. Okay. It's okay if you're a pedophile, as long as it hasn't been in the last 7 years. Let's not mix terms. Okay. It specifically says involving sexual molestation, physical or sexual abuse, or rape of a child. sorry if I'm getting loud, or whether he or she has been convicted of a crime of moral turpitude. I'm not even going to dissect that one, but I had to include it. Okay, 7 years. So that's how far from reality we have drifted, is that we are allowing people, because let's go right back. It's a request for a proposal for psychological services. Okay. For next school year. Special conditions, no smoking facility. Before awarding a contract. But then this part, and they actually put it in bold. $7 years. It's okay if you raped a child. Come on into our schools and be a psychologist. Psychologically profile these kids. Let's not even talk. And then, 7 years ago, you raped a child, you molested a child, you abused a child. Is 7 years some magical cutoff? Like you're cured of being a pedophile? What? Like this was, I could not. I could not when I saw this. This stopped. It's stuff like this. I don't know. I don't feel like I know what to do with except show it to y'all. Like, can somebody help me figure out what to do with this? Because I'm sure that they have rewritten the law so that this is now acceptable. So when I tell people that all of this stuff, and this is my life going back to child sex services or child sex trafficking, CPS, the involvement that we are now having social workers in schools. They're now going to start doing, if you don't want to get your kids out, home visits. Do not let anybody from your child's school in your house. They are bringing social workers in. Social workers are meant, they work with the child protectors. I don't care if Glenn Youngkin says it's a good thing. Do not let anybody from your child's school in your house. Ever. Period. But this goes back to all of it, is that I have said that the problem with questioning is that we have said that children can allow them to, at any age, to be whatever gender that they want, is it kicks the door wide open for the age of consent. As soon as enough states pass this policy, these model policies for transgender, which is all coming, Virginia just happened to be lucky enough to have James Lane and have it be blatant enough that it got thrown to us first, because North Carolina, it's going to come for everybody. And it's what's going to happen next is what we're seeing with this Danville thing is 7 years. As long as you didn't rape, you can come in our schools. 7 years. Get your kids out. That's all I can really say. And I really want to go through and dissect this a lot better than I have. But what I do want to show y'all is that let me just share my screen. I found this, and if I can get on board with something, it's like Catherine Haynes. If I can get on board with something and we can agree on it, and if I can get on board with Elizabeth Warren on something, then that's how we maybe save these children. If you can find something that we can unite all the sides against the 1%, because that's who's running this stuff. If we can put away the blind hatred that we have because they've divided us based on our skin color, they've divided us based on what's between our legs, and if they're right or if we're right, and if who's right for what reasons, or if you're a bigot because you don't agree, but this is what it seems everybody can agree on, is that nobody wants, no matter what you want to call it, being done to these kids. So again, you can look up Ed Markey. So Markey Warren and now this was just done. I found this March 30th. Okay. EdTech student surveillance platforms need urgent federal action to protect students. Hello. How long have we been saying that? They've been saying it too. And they even broke it down. They broke it down by company. So Gaggle, right here, Gaggle, Bark. Try to find them in your I had Gaggles ready to go, and Chesterfield has locked me out of the system. So Chesterfield has a contract with Gaggle. You can Google Gaggle. Yes, I know. It sounds funny. Click on news. Because I can't go through it all with y'all right now. It'll tell you right there. It'll have people that worked for them. Testimony from people. So Chesterfield has Gaggle. I'm guessing most do. Bark Technologies is a big one. Go Guardian is another big one. And then Securely. Those are the four. I knew that Gaggle, Google, you can see how they go together. Yes, they are one and the same. So these all work off of platforms, whether it's Apple, Microsoft, or Google Classroom. My child had Google Classroom. So, and then you have ones like Class Dojo. That's another one. That's a threat assessment because teachers have real time. Now, keep in mind that the way that these companies sell themselves is that they are early warning us, and they put in like like words, like a typeset of words that should send off certain alarms, literal alarms. And the reason that the LGBTQ, gender dysphoria, transgender community is getting so many, they are getting actually misidentified and they are getting dinged. I will agree that this does not serve these children especially, is because they're doing research. And these words that they're looking for, and even children in this abortion stuff that we're allowing our children to participate in, they're looking these things up in their one-to-one devices that you can't opt out of. You can't have a textbook. You can't have your own one-to-one device because they can't monitor your own. Kids are getting dinged for looking up like sexual reproductive health. But if you're in Chesterfield County and you assign a child an assignment like search online for prescription drugs in your child's house, no, because that was a county assignment. If your child goes looking for hydrocodone, which you would send off a warning, no, it doesn't, because it was an assignment by the school. So I'm not going to go over this whole thing, but there were multiple, issues that they had, that Markey Warren investigation. But these are the big ones: Gaggle, Bark, Go Guardian, Securely. And so what they're doing is that it's literally like live. They hire, like I said, they hire third-party vendors, subcontractors who work at their house, at their homes, and they monitor your child's screen. Like literally for $10 an hour, they outsource. Okay. So who here has been told that, I know I was, vetted companies, third-party vendors, vetted is what they say. Who has access to my child's data? School officials. Why would you question that? Well, you wouldn't have until Obama gutted FERPA, making school officials now include third-party vendors, subcontractors, contractors. So the people that Gaggle hires, the people that they don't go to an office. They sit in front of a computer for $10 an hour. It's like the same thing. It's like a social media platform. The people that monitor Facebook for fact checking. It's that kind of thing. They have access to your children's data. And then if they see something inappropriate, they flag your kid. Boop. And then if it gets flagged bad enough, they don't call the parents. Parents are never involved in any of this. Okay. I know this is that I have a sibling who got in trouble taking, this was 25 years ago, taking the SATs, doodled a gun on his SAT, and we had the police at our house. So imagine that on a level of data mining that will follow you forever. And a child mistake But not just that, it's the fact that we've never known this was even going on. Never. So the parental removal, we have yet again, parents have been removed from something that we didn't even know to look for. So we have now, we'll get into more. I'll probably jump back on probably tonight. How about this? Tonight, 9 o'clock, we'll resume back here because I think it's easier to break it up into segments. So we have kind of an outline. So if you want today while you're looking, or if you don't, leave it up to me because I'm going to figure out where the Chesterfield County's contracts went. Or how about we start figuring out what in the world is going on over in Danville? Because I call Danville a symptom of the disease. Because if it's going on there, it has to have a legal basis. Nothing is done by localities. If it's going on there, and I would just happen to catch it, who in the hell are they bringing in to the rest of the county, the rest of the localities? Because it's got to be legally sound if they're doing it there. Okay. They've rewritten everything, which was the show that I did the other day, 2 days ago, is that the law, psychology, the American Association for School Psychologists, they're a lobbying group. They lobby. So our school psychologists are now like the NEA. They're not unbiased school psychologists. They're partners in a lobbying group. So is that we have to start questioning school counselors. Their qualifications have been dropped because of the amount of mental health problems. Listen, if you have more mental health problems, the worst thing to do is bring in less qualified people. Writing legislation, I don't care if you're a Republican or not, writing legislation to drop the requirements, it's like they dropped the requirements to become a teacher because of the massive amount of exodus of good teachers. You don't bring in less qualified teachers, which I will remind you, the COVID money was skin color specific. You don't bring in less qualified. My cousin called me and said that student teaching, don't have to do it anymore. Nope. They're just passing. They just get them in. But are they culturally competent? That matters. But everything else doesn't matter. When you have more of a problem, you don't bring in more people less qualified or not qualified, because you have teachers doing this stuff, filling out these surveys that I keep in front of me in case a new teacher is here. The DESA Mini, this just happens to be the version that I have in front of me, which is because there's mainly Aperture, DESA, Devereaux, or you've got, which Second Step uses, or you've got Panorama doing the same types. Okay. So these teachers are not qualified to, one, know what this is. That this is a psychological profile that will be kept and follow them for 75 years. And then what it spits out is what I showed you guys before. Hyperactivity, depression, anxiety, gives them a score based on whether a teacher answered, because they do self-reporting, students do 9th through 12th. This is for Deaf Aperture. So Chesterfield, and I will work with all the counties to try to get more transparency until we can get rid of this stuff. But guys, keep in mind also, and I'll get to this later, is that all of these programs involve artificial intelligence also, which is the main problem you're going to find with Gaggle and GoGuardian and Securely, is that if it's not an underpaid $10 an hour employee who now has access to your child's information, it's artificial intelligence, AI. And guess what? All of these people are run by the 1%, or they're funded by the 1% that we continue to talk about. So just please, one more time, I'm going to show you guys. And then as soon as I jump off here, I'm going to, I want to show you guys real quick again where I found this page. But if it's the dcjs.virginia.gov. And then So, yeah. So it's, and then you're going to look for something that says Virginia, and I'll post it if both in Twitter. I'll post the links, and then you can go through yourself, and the links are all here, and even the manuals, and it's a lot. But now you understand what it is that I do. But and usually I like to have something completely dissected before I put it up. But if I did that, then I would never expose stuff to you guys. So first I want you to know that, okay, so they have the information sharing guide, the threat assessment in Virginia, prevention overview. They have the frequently asked questions. They have this BS little video, and then essential elements, management model procedures. So this, oh gosh, look at all these wonderful links. Now you'll understand, like, this is why I have stacks of papers, and I think I'm going to get divorced over the fact of how many. It's not even worth having a binder anymore. But keep in mind that this stuff, you can go down rabbit holes all day long. But the most is that the fact that this has been going on since 2013 is when they made it mandatory. Ask your children this summer, spend time writing your superintendent. Ask them who's on the threat assessment team for Fredericksburg, who's on the threat assessment team for Stafford. Hey, Danville, what's going on with this contract? I call for people in other counties and find out, where's your stuff. Guys, just start making the calls, asking the questions. I guarantee you they've never been asked before. And that goes back to the Student Data Privacy Handbook on vafcf.org, is that there's a whole 3 or 4 pages regarding data privacy that you can ask we've put in there. Ask your school officials. But this document here, I'm not really going to, because I'll be here all day, but I am going to jump back on tonight, and I want to go over specifics about this that jumped out to me. So we'll call this part 1. And anybody from North Carolina watching, there's an article that just went up regarding Wake County. And the thing is that the big cities, Chicago, you'll find all over the country, especially regarding Gaggle, and even the other ones, where is it? What was the one thing? But the big cities have been alarmed about this, like New York City, DESA. So when you talk about people on both sides of the fence, do not want this. Do not want this. Not only that, it stopped nothing. All it's done is create data for people who don't need it. And none of it has solved school shooting, which is the excuse for all of this. So I guarantee you now, they're going to push this because of what happened in Uvalde. As atrocious and horrific as that was, they're going to use that. Just like right here, they use Columbine. I know I saw it. Yeah. Okay, guys. They don't care about our children. If they cared about our children at some point in time, somebody would have recognized this isn't working. None of this data mining. You're not collecting any data that's proven anything. This isn't working. You're collecting data on our kids. Straight up. That's all there is to it. So I'm going to leave you guys with this. I'll paste all the links that I have. So it's either at Domestic Terra on Twitter or Ann Terra Wrist on Facebook. And then I'll also, if you're on YouTube, I will post some of these links. And then I will post what time I will be back tonight to kind of jump more in depth into the companies that are doing this. And I'll find some more contracts about what's going around the state and find out how long it's been going on. But I did want to throw this up here for you guys to give some of an understanding, to start to share the information, because like I said, if I tried to understand it all, and if anybody out there is a researcher and likes to dig and wants to help me, shout out, because God knows I need it. But I have to show you guys this, because if you're not aware, then how are we going to stop it? And there's so much we're unaware. I can't begin to pick everything apart, but I can make you aware that it's going on so that you can start asking the questions that need to be asked that are not being freely given. Enforcing transparency is a big thing. So I'm going to run right now and go see my kiddos, and then I'm going to dig into this some more, find out what happened to Chesterfield County. And I will share with you guys also what I found. Prince William, I believe, Newport News, I was able to find the majority of your contracts. I can't dig in, but I'm going to do an open government about why you can't request FOIAs on private citizens and that kind of thing. But so hopefully this is just an outline for you guys. And then we're going to dig into, after I do some more research, dig in some more later about the nitty gritty of why this is so wrong. So I'll see you guys later. Bye.